Hello and welcome to The Build Up. This is the podcast for marketing in the construction industry. I'm Dan, the creative director at Dissident. We've been working with construction brands for a number of years. It's an exciting and rapidly evolving industry, and that's why we created a podcast dedicated to the weird and wonderful world of construction marketing. I'll be speaking to leading brands, other agencies, creatives, influencers and startups. This is the resource I wish we had when we first started out in the industry. Thank you for being here and welcome to The Build Up. Welcome to The Build Up. I'm Dan, the creative director at Dissident. We are a social-first creative agency that specializes in construction. And today I'm joined by Martin Fallon, who's the head of marketing at Wera. Sorry, I've screwed it up already. We did have this discussion ahead of the podcast. It's pronounced Wera. You should call it Wera, but we're not going to chase you up on it.
I'm not bothered. Yeah.
Thank you so much.
Thanks for the invite.
Well, I don't really do intros to people particularly well, and I'll screw it up anyway. I usually screw up everybody's name. So I would love it if you could just give a brief introduction to yourself, your background, and how you got kind of into this industry specifically.
Yeah, no, cheers, Dan. So I'm a relative newcomer to the construction industry. So I've been in charge of the marketing department of Wera now for just over a year. But I have been involved in the brand for 4.5 years before that. So my background in my career to date has been predominantly in sport, professional sport. So most recently, as head of partnerships for Motorsport UK, the governing body. I've worked in professional cycling with the Tour of Britain and across 3 different professional rugby union clubs for about 8 years as well. So
that sounds cool. Yeah. Sounds really cool.
So yeah, as I can tell, I've come in with different ideas, different thoughts, albeit, you know, with a typical marketeer's brain and full of shit talk, really.
Do you know what I love about this, and what I love about construction marketing as a whole is, I think if you've been in other industries, you know what's expected of those kinds of things, and you can bring that kind of skill set to marketing, which, in my opinion, to construction, which in my opinion, as a whole, is kind of lacking in that kind of innovation and creativity. Yeah. And we've said it a few times in the past. We can't put an exact number in it, but I reckon as a whole, on average, construction is about 10 years behind. Yeah. That's not to say all brands are. Some brands are doing incredibly well. Some of the guys are trailblazers in marketing. But it's great when we can get people like yourself who have come out of industry into industry to bring that kind of something different.
Yeah, it is. But there's a balance to be struck. You need the detailed knowledge, the background, the history, the real in-depth product knowledge and application knowledge. But equally, fresh ideas and fresh thoughts are always interesting. I mean, I've just hired a new member of our team that comes from a skateboarding background.
Wicked.
So there was a really interesting question in an interview process where a colleague of mine just, turned around and said, you've been a skateboarder, but are you a screwdriver?
Yeah.
But
love that.
It's one of these things. Fresh ideas is always good, albeit it needs to be backed up with a bit of competency and knowing what you're talking about, really.
Absolutely. I love that. So 1 year into construction.
Yep.
Just abstract thoughts on the differences in construction as a industry compared to industries you've been in terms of marketing. Like, what have you found? Just candidly, what's been a struggle? What's been great?
Yeah, it's been an interesting one. I came from a marketing educational background, so I did marketing in university and masters back in the west of Ireland, but went into sport. So always saw construction brands from a sponsorship perspective, whether that be in motorsport, in rugby, cycling to a degree with the likes of Soudal, Quickstep, etc. So I've always seen them from that side and how they communicate their brand through a different mechanism. And I worked hand in hand with Wera for 4.5 years before I jumped to the other side of the table, literally. And it's been interesting to benchmark what I know as a brand at Wera that's innovative and forward thinking now that I'm a year in versus some of the other competitors within the industry. While they might be exciting in the prism of motorsport or rugby or football or whatever it may be, sometimes in their own space, there's a bit of sitting back and resting on laurels. However, not everyone's like that. And there's some amazing brands out there doing amazing things. And, it's great, you see some of the big players obviously have massive budgets and they can spend on enormous big structures on big spaces. But some of the more interesting ones for me are the people that are doing things really interesting on a small budget. And that's what breeds innovation and new thoughts and new fresh ideas. And it's always interesting to benchmark against what other people are doing. Equally, outside of this industry as well, to see, you know, what are people doing in the tech industry? What are people doing in aerospace? What are people doing in automotive engineering? Whatever it may be, because there's always ideas that you can pick up from other people.
In terms of, you mentioned budgets there, like specific, like let's say, if we could take an average, well, you know, it's one of those things that you don't walk around to brands and say, what's your marketing budget? Is there a big difference between the industries that you worked in the past compared to construction as a whole in terms of budgets, do you think? Have you got an idea of like the...
Yeah, I mean, particularly in the motorsport space and the automotive space as a whole, some of the budgets are colossal.
Yeah.
You know, you look what some of the energy drinks companies are spending. You look at what some of the petrochemical companies or whatever it may be, even the car companies. So yes, the budgets are enormously different. However, it's not always about the size of the budget. It's how you do it and how you use it. And you can work a lot smarter with a smaller budget and make a big enough impact that far outweighs what you're actually spending. So yeah, as it's smaller. However, I've worked in, you know, go back a number of years back working with Connacht Rugby in the west of Ireland before they became a competitive side that they are now. You know, we had a shoestring and there was 4 people in the office, and you make the best of what you have, and you're working with smaller companies then because you're a smaller brand, so you're only attracting brands at a certain level before you start getting that success, and that snowballs and that attracts more and more investment. So I think you can work smarter rather than harder, I think is the best way of doing it.
I think constrictions can breed creativity, can't it? In that respect, you know, some of the best campaigns have been done on a shoestring.
Yeah.
But it's always nice as a marketer to be given a little bit more leeway.
Exactly.
You know what I mean? I think at the very least you've got to work in that with those kinds of constraints at some point during your career, so that it makes you appreciate the bigger budgets and spend them more wisely.
100%. I mean, you know, you don't learn as much if you're there with a blank check and you can just splash and spend your way out of a problem. I mean, if you're faced with something, then you can't afford to buy your way out, then you have to think differently.
It's like a spoiled kid playing with like daddy's money. You know what I mean? You've never known the value of the dollar.
I've seen plenty of that in my career in motorsport, trust me.
So whereas if you come at this like kind of like new money, like you've known how to scrimp and use your budget efficiently, and then when you actually finally get to a point where the brand has given you a reasonable amount of budget to play with, you know then how to eke out as much as possible out of that budget and use it effectively rather than just kind of blow it on like a sponsored art project or something like that, you know. But then it kind of brings me, I mean, I'm jumping the gun here because we haven't really spoken about Wera. Can you give us a little bit of a, not necessarily a history lesson, but like an overview of like Wera as a brand, who it's for, you know, like where it's placed in the market? Yeah,
of course. So founded in 1936, headquartered in Wuppertal, North Rhine-Westphalia in Germany, and that's a real hub of industry for a hub of companies in our industry. You know, just down the road we have Nipex's world headquarters, and we have Stavilla down the road as well. So it's a real hive of engineering, as you would expect in Germany. But the company traditionally has been a screwdriving brand and was family owned up until the teens by the original founding family. But was first to market. There was always the innovation. There was first to market with so many things that is now commonplace within our whole world. You know, you take the 1/4-inch hex bit that's commonplace around the world, was a Wera invention. And historically, it's not just been about creating the products, but also Wera have created the machines that create the product. And there had been a parallel company under the one umbrella of Wera that built the machines, the profilators, and had the patents behind how you actually build these products in the first place. But it's grown and grown, and in the late teens, we were taken over by Bitburger, the family of the brewing company in Germany as well, who have an investment arm. And it's grown from there. But what they saw, and that's still family owned as well, but what they saw is the innovation and to give the company the investment to continue with that innovation. There's some amazing minds there. You know, we police over 450 patents around the world at the moment. But how we do it is with a sole laser guided focus on driving fasteners. So that's whether from the inside or the outside of the screw head. That's all we concentrate on.
Okay.
And because we're that laser focused, we can go much more in depth into the research, the development, and the innovation behind the products. Because if you have a multi-product brand that can one week it's screwdrivers, next week it's measuring equipment, it's cutting, it's diagnostics. Where do you concentrate your R&D budget?
Yes.
You can spread yourself too thinly. But for us, that laser focus has allowed us, look at our existing products. How can they be adapted further? You know, we have an amazing internal video that we show to all new staff of our innovation, the story to our innovation, and it's everything you need is already there. You just need to look, feel, touch, hear, and kind of innovate your way out of what are the challenges to existing products. And that's how the company has developed. And, you know, innovation is a huge part of what we do. Inventive spirit is one of our 4 key pillars. And it's an interesting one from a marketing perspective, because I've worked in sports teams, professional teams, and you always see these brand values and they're plastered up on a wall, and most of them are horseshit, to be honest. They're just window dressing. It looks great. But what was really different at Wera for me when, you know, I first started working with them in 2019 on the other side, is the people actually really echoed the 4 brand values. And I said, okay, well, that's maybe it's a coincidence. There's a couple of people that I deal with. But since I started coming into the company and travel over to HQ in Germany or work with my colleagues around the world in North America and Australia, wherever it may be, it really is. And it's been a breath of fresh air, because people really seem to buy in to the Wera way.
Yes.
And it's almost like there's a Wera type person.
There's a culture.
It is a real culture, and it's about being a tool rebel, which I'm sure I'll go back into that story shortly. But and we had a brief chat before we started recording about when we were recruiting. We're almost recruiting an individual first, more so than someone to fit a role. So we want to have a Wera person. We can teach other things, but if they fit in and they work with our culture, they work with the way in which we do things around the office, around the world, it's a lot easier.
Do you know, that's massive, and I'm glad that some of the biggest brands in the industry have that kind of mindset, because I'm forever like, I'll meet someone in a restaurant, someone like waiting the table, and I think, God, I'd love to hire that person. For no other reason than I think they'd be a great fit. Regardless of their skill set, we can teach the skills to some extent. But having that kind of a culture behind a person, I think that I just sort of think that would work. And I bought a suit the other day, and whoever was the person that was dealing with myself, I thought, you would be amazing in some like account manager role or something like that. Andrew's looking nervous. So quick shout out to Andrew on the Andrew cam. Are you okay, mate? Is everything going okay?
Yeah.
Just do a little check. Okay, he's like walking in slow motion. You can make noise, Andrew. It's fine. Keelan's usually all right. Mess behind there. You can hear him. You can hear him burping and coughing and all sorts. Big shout out to Andrew who's filling in for Keelan because Keelan's on holiday today. He's on a cruise, even though he's like practically a teenager. We all think it's weird that he's on a cruise, but that kind of bring someone who's the right fit and then train them on the skills.
It's amazing you said about walking into a cafe or a restaurant and saying I'd love to hire that person. If you walk into Wera Tools UK in Clay Cross, our finance manager used to be our auditor.
Yeah.
Our IT manager used to be our account manager with our IT agency. I mean, I used to be head of partnerships for one of our biggest partners, and that's the same way around the world. And people get in, and it's almost like a drug. You get in and you get a taste of it, and you say, I want more.
Yeah.
And it's it makes the transitions a lot easier to work with the company.
So cool, really, really cool. It's so important to have an emphasis on that culture. I know this is a marketing podcast, but we see so many brands that in construction can't keep their staff, don't care, and it's still that kind of like old school work hard, bus is a tosser, that kind of mentality. And it's nice to see kind of forward-thinking brands thinking about their people, because people are the profit makers, and hiring new staff, having staff leave to go to competitors is so expensive. And you could probably, it's probably more of an issue than just getting a decent sales team. Is keeping the rest of the people, especially people like customer service.
Yeah, 100%. It's much easier to keep a job than to rehire. And don't get me wrong, I mean, every company has some churn of staff. But we have a lot of people that have been there for a long time. 20 plus years with some, and that's echoed not just in Wera in the UK, but in Wera around the world as well. So yeah, it's like Hotel California. You can check out, but you never leave really. And we've even had people that have left and come back.
That's good.
So it obviously says something about the culture, and that happy, energetic, enthusiastic culture in a workplace feeds into the workflow externally. And if you look at our area sales managers or key account managers, they're happy, they're motivated, they're enjoying their job, they're going to go out and they're going to do a better job, and they're going to be enthusiastic about the products. And we're quite lucky, we have a range of fantastic products that once you get them into somebody's hands, they effectively sell themselves. But equally, you need someone that goes in, that opens the door, that builds the relationship with our stockists, with our customers, and has the ability to just pick up the phone and say, hello, Joe, Jane, whatever it's going to be, waiting to tell you about our next new product launch.
Amazing. And you've hit the nail on the head there, because I've dropped, I don't know, 120 quid on Wera products at Screwfix Live or something like that. And I'm like, I'm not a tradesperson at all, but I just need these tools. I don't know what the set is, but it's like it's got the screwdriver sort of
Tool Check Plus.
Is that the one? And you've got all the different components that like flip out.
Yeah.
Amazing. And we use that all the time in the studio. We use it for everything, and so often it finds itself into productions with other brands, because it's like we're breaking drill bits and stuff like that, and screw heads, and I've just got the Wera thing.
Yeah, it's funny. That was my first step into Wera as well. It's the first product I had, and when I started working with them on the other side, and it went in the drawer at home, and it becomes my go-to. Even now, it's the thing that will solve 99% of every issue around the house or in the garage.
It kind of screws up the rest of the product line, because you just sort of think, do I need anything else?
Well, it's almost like a gateway drug, It keeps people wanting more. And,
for the DIYer though, or the person who's just at home, like I keep saying, God, we need to get another one for home, because it's just so good. If you're a hardcore user, if you're if you're using screwdrivers in anger, you ain't gonna be using that thing. It's something to have handy.
Exactly, and you keep it in the van to fix problems in the van rather than to fix problems at the job.
Yes, but yeah, so cool. But
in saying that, I mean, if you take that small little ratchet that's on the top of that it's been tested. It can do over 100 Newton meters through that ratchet.
Super.
And with enough extension, you can actually take off a car wheel nut with that little thin Cyclop Mini. So it's not just a handy thing for DIYers. It has some good innovation for other people as well.
If you could, what do you think people say about Wera when you guys aren't around? Like, because we have conversations about Wera with the end users and stuff like that. We don't work specifically with Wera, but we work with the guys who use Wera. What do you think people say about Wera? What's their positioning on the brand?
It's a very interesting question, Dan, because I think that is something that Wera globally has been quite interested to find out for quite some time. And ultimately it was that question that led to our Be a Tool Rebel slogan. And the whole Tool Rebel community formed from that simple question. We are a premium brand. We have premium products with a lot of innovation. We're not always the cheapest, but we're definitely not the most expensive across the different industries. But what we do is we create bloody good tools to do the job that they're designed to do. From a brand perspective, we play a lot on our brand. We want to emotionalize the products. We want someone to buy Wera. Of course, they're going to buy it because it's good at what it does, but they want it because it's cool, it's different.
They want to be part of the culture.
They want to be a tool rebel, and that's what it's all about. And that's what we're trying to build more and more in the UK. It's been very successful in Europe, and it has been successful in the UK to date. But we just want to accelerate that in the next few years.
I can tell you the outsider's perspective when I speak to the guys who use these products and stuff, and when I talk about I've always said like this isn't a pitch, by the way, but I've always I've been very open. I've always said I really want to work with Wera because their look and feel is so dissident. But when we like mention Wera for whatever reason, they go, it's nice. It's a good, there's always that kind of thing of like such a good product.
Yeah.
It's the mix of the branding, the colors, the quality, the price. I think that's really important. Is the fact that it's priced as a product that you want to get excited to purchase. And the marketing, the way that you guys do. I've never seen a stand busier than a Wera stand at shows, and it always looks incredible at the exhibitions and stuff like that. But the amount of people that say that's the one, and I don't know many people that get excited. This isn't to sort of throw shade on any other competitors to Wera. I don't get many people that get excited about a screwdriver other than a Wera one.
Yeah.
Do you know what I mean?
Well, I do. And it's interesting. I mean, we're a German company. It would be very easy for us to talk about the features, the benefits, it does X, Y, Z.
Yeah.
But that's not how we do things at Wera. That's very left-hand side of the brain, logical, traditional German, for want of a stereotype. But what we try and do is engage the right-hand side of the brain. We try and emotionalize the product, emotionalize the brand. And that stems from everything, as you say, the colors, the packaging. If you open a Wera box, it has that kind of suction packaging. It's presented in a nice way. You take the product out, it has a nice feel. In there, you'll have your stickers. It's a bit like opening an Apple product.
Yes.
And in fact, we do that in our company presentations when we're bringing in new customers or engaging with new people in our existing customers. We always ask a question, how many of you have an Apple phone or iPad, MacBook, whatever? They'll put up their hand. Okay, so how many of you got the box? And at least 80 to 90% of people say, yeah, I have the box.
Gotta keep it.
And we say, well, why? Oh, it could be handy. I might want to resell the phone or whatever. But the reality is that Apple have engaged the right-hand side of the brain. They've emotionalized it. They think it's a cool thing. And effectively, it's not necessarily stealing their playbook, but it's taking inspiration from it and bringing it into our industry and making things cool.
Yeah, absolutely.
Making products that people want from an engaging perspective.
It's such a cool brand, and I think the consensus that I see is like if you see yourself to be a trendy tradesperson or a cool, it sounds naff to say this, but if you want to be cool and look cool, you have Wera products, Wera products. I'm going to keep doing that.
I'm sure we've been called a lot worse.
You have those products. That's the one that like it is saying kind of I'm kind of elite, but also like it sounds daft but fashionable.
Yeah,
as a tradesperson, it's really fashionable to have a Wera product.
It's funny. I speak to a lot of tradespeople at tool fairs, and our color schemes of our screwdrivers have specific designations.
Yes.
Your traditional black and green is what we call the engineering range, and we have our VD range, yellow and red. But we'll have people will come and they'll buy a chisel driver set, which is yellow, black, and I will say, well, what are you using it for? Well, I just have it because everyone else on the site has the green and black, so I want that one to stand out. Or people will come in and say, oh, I don't have that color scheme yet, so I want that. But okay, well, this is a stainless steel set, so are you using stainless steel? No, it just looks cool. I want it.
Yeah, I want the limited edition one.
Yeah. Oh yeah, we do plenty of those. I mean, the back end of last year, we brought out UK and Ireland country specific sports.
I saw
sets.
those, really cool,
and it was amazing, the reception. But that they've been trialed elsewhere in the world as well. So we have Japanese, we have sets from North America, Canada, USA. We've had countries in Europe. And when we brought that out, they were specific to the UK and Irish markets. But we were getting phone calls and emails from Japan, from Brazil, from America saying, how do I get them? I want to get those.
So cool.
And the funny thing is, a lot of those people will buy those sets purely for the bottle opener that's in them.
Yes.
The Wera bottle opener has just exploded.
Yeah, we've got one of them, I think.
Yeah. And you look online, there's groups on social media dedicated specifically to Wera bottle openers and people showing off collections. And it's an amazing to have a brand that's that powerful that people get excited about a bottle opener.
Yeah, and it makes your life a lot easier as well, doesn't it? If people are already bought in, all you've got to do then is keep them bought in. And progress that.
Yeah, and that's where the constant innovation comes in. I mean, every year we have at least one, if not two, product launches, and then every couple of years we have what we call a blockbuster product launch, where there's a complete reinvention or a new range comes out, and it's all well and good having that amazing brand and that following, but if you're not following through with constant innovation and product improvements or bringing out new things, then it'll quickly die off. And we've seen other tool companies from other sectors, and not necessarily straight construction, that have had a almost cult-like following for years. It has started to wane, either because production has not kept up with quality or for whatever reasons. People are now starting to move away from what was in the past historically the one thing to have.
Yeah, it's not just a given, is it? That once you get that level of interest and sort of buy-in, that it just stays there.
Yep.
You have to nurture it. Yeah, 100%. And it's usually the cleverest brands have the most marketing expertise and creativity, even though on the surface it looks like they don't need to.
Yep.
It looks like Coca-Cola and Pepsi shouldn't need to advertise, and yet they've got some of the biggest advertising budgets because they know they need to keep marketing. They need to keep their brand up.
It's funny you mentioned that red cola brand, because our global marketing director is ex-Coca-Cola.
Oh, is that right?
So I guess coming from that big global brand world, it certainly helped the direction of Wera.
100%. Yeah, absolutely.
Yeah.
In terms of like Wera, marketing with Wera as a whole, I know you've only been with those guys for a year, so you might be able to speak on this from a historical perspective or just over your own experience. What's worked the most for you guys? Like, what's the defining thing in terms of marketing or brand that's been like, this is the thing that generates interest?
There's been a lot of incremental things that have helped to build this aura, if for want of a better phrase. One of the more mundane, boring side of things was the move to black packaging, black boxes.
So branding, essentially.
Exactly. A lot of tool companies have blister packs or whatever it may be. And when that came out first, there was some hesitancy among stockists and retailers that say, I don't want that. All the black boxes look the same, or you can't actually see the product, or for whatever reasons. But what that allowed us to do is to start standardizing how we present ourselves. And we always say that the first interaction with our brand needs to be memorable. And whether that's from coming to speak to us at an event, whether that's walking into one of our stockists and seeing our toolbar and the product on it, whether that's walking onto a site and going into a mate's toolbox and picking up a screwdriver, we always want your first interaction with Wera to be a positive, memorable one. So packaging played a huge part of that.
Yeah.
And we spoke earlier about, the inspiration from the tech industry. Now we've developed that a lot further, and, you walk into a well-stocked stockist retailer and you see 2, 3, 5, 10 meters of toolbar. It looks bloody impressive as well.
Yeah, so cool.
It looks impressive. So, and that whole kind of journey that started to come with the building of the brand has accelerated. Where the emotionalization of the brand has started to kind of really take legs and run was the introduction of the Tool Rebel brand. So the background from that was born out of university research in Germany. And it was your typical marketeer's questions, to panel and to an interview panel. If Wera was a car, what type of car would it be? If Wera was a piece of music. So what came off the back of that was, we think outside the box. We're different. We're rebellious. We challenge the standard. If Wera was music, it was rock and roll because it was a little bit edgy, a little bit doing things different.
You're dissidents, essentially.
Dissidents, yeah. We're rebellious dissidents.
Exactly.
Exactly. But that's where it came from, and that's we're tool rebels because we challenge the standard. We do things differently, and that feeds into everything that we do, and we're trying to build that community among our end users and among our stockists as well. Because,
and I think that, I imagine the way that this works so well is because I think I use this a lot. I don't know whether I don't know if I've told you this before, Andrew, so you can act surprised and interested, but it goes back to that kind of thing of like, the way that brand and marketing works a lot of the time, when it works incredibly well is you don't market the products necessarily. Like you said, it's a given that the Wera products are exceptionally well made and they're going to do the job incredibly well. But there are other products on the market that also do a really good
100%,
job.
yep.
So what do you do then? Well, you have to get buy-in from your end user, and the way that you do that is through culture and through brand. So like Doc Martens, for instance, when you see their marketing material, it's so much about this subculture of people that you kind of think, I want to be one of those guys, And when you think about somebody who wears like a Doc Marten brogue or a boot or something, you think probably pretty cool, probably had a great time in university, took some substances, whatever. Had got a really great taste in music, quite artistic and creative and fun to be around, and probably has a lot, probably has a lot of style. You think, well, I could be that person, even if you're not.
It's aspirational.
It's aspirational, and so you buy into you buy into Doc Marten because of the marketing, which it's showing the boots obviously, but it's not telling you about the quality of the boot or how long it's going to last or whatever design elements have gone into it. They just show these cool people that you think, they're kind of my people.
Yep.
And it's the same thing with the Tool Rebel. It's that kind of thing of like, I'm a tradesman, but I'm different.
Yeah,
you know what I mean.
Yeah.
And that's huge. And it's so simple. And it's like you go black packaging, creative content, logos quite simple, and a great tagline. All of those things. It sounds like that's an obvious choice, but there's hundreds of thousands of euros would have been spent on this kind of material and marketing and investigation and research and stuff, right? At head office in Germany and all that kind of thing to get to this point.
Yeah, there has been, and there's been a lot of work. There's an amazing team there, and all of the marketing that we generate, all the content we generate, is all done in house. And I mean, it's. I appreciate we're sitting here with Dissident as an agency, but currently Wera globally doesn't really engage agencies from a creative perspective. We have an amazing team of graphic designers, of animators, of packaging specialists over there in Wuppertal, and they just churn out this amazing content. And for me, as someone that runs the marketing in a set territory, I have this resource of an FTP site that is like a Bible. It just, I can pick whatever I want. We do augment it locally and increasingly more so over the next couple of years, but it's just, as a start point, it's amazing to have. But yeah, it needs to constantly evolve. So we had a product launch this year in March, April. And, we go over to Germany. There's what we call the international sales meeting, and most brands will do it at around the same time. Bring some of the big customers and get everyone revved up, and it's like a keynote speech. But we need to translate that back into everyday life. We want to kind of capture a little bit of that essence when you walk into your local stockist, whether that be in Suffolk, in Bristol, in Portsmouth or Edinburgh, wherever it may be. When you see a Wera toolbar, when you see a Wera product, it needs to have that level of interest and level of kind of, I want that.
Yes, absolutely. Is it a from like an agency's perspective? Is it when you say like all of the creative is done in house at Wera, and that kind of like trickles down to the what would you call like the UK arm of it? There's a term for that.
We're a daughter company.
Okay.
Yeah, so we are effectively a wholly owned subsidiary.
Subsidiary, that's the one.
Yeah, but where Wera Europe and predominantly around a lot of the world have an agency model, or they'll have direct sales out of one central hub in Germany. The UK and North America kind of operate slightly different. We have a degree of autonomy. So, if you look at that from a marketeer's perspective, we are the masters of our own destiny, albeit within the confines of the brand world. And the same in North America. But ultimately, we're part of the Wera world, albeit a slightly different part of it.
So because we work with a lot of international companies who have like a UK subsidiary, but they'll have their own marketing budgets, and they'll be able to they'll have a little bit of freedom there. And a lot of the time, the situation happens where European market as a whole has like a, the head office content, which kind of works for those guys. But when it comes over to the UK, there's like a little bit of a disconnect.
It doesn't always translate.
Doesn't always translate particularly well. And it's weird that it's only the UK that does it for, because I think you produce some content in Germany, works just as well in Italy.
Yep.
You know what I mean? But why doesn't it work in the UK? It's
I mean,
bizarre.
the UK and Ireland, I guess, if you want to bring the two together, has quite a different culture across many, many industries, construction being one of them, obviously. Where we have kind of developed to Wera UK versus Wera around the world, we've built up that trust of working with head office. They know that we're not going to bastardize the brand.
Yes.
They trust the feedback. We have, I speak to our German colleagues at least 4 or 5 times a week. We have quarterly international marketing meetings with all of our counterparts from around the world. We're sharing ideas, we're sharing thoughts, we're sharing those wins from one market and how it can translate into another. There's some projects that I'll just work with Jamie in North America because I know it won't work in Germany or Australia. There's some that I'll work with Mike in Australia that definitely won't work in Germany. There's some I'll work with Germany that I know won't work in North America and vice versa. So, we do share ideas, we share thoughts, but they trust us to get on and look after our local patches. And
you mentioned there, like there's a trust there, but you do have to abide by, that it's got to still be Wera.
Yeah.
Is that quite strict guidelines on how the content's made and stuff like that? It's always got to be consistent.
Yeah, we do. We have quite a tight corporate identity manual that is quite clear guidelines as to how things should be portrayed, from not just the logo of the brand, but also how we present a Wera picture, how we present a Wera video, because ultimately it comes back to that consistency of making and emotionalizing the product that we have. And if we're running off on a tangent and doing things differently, the world's a very small place now. It's not going to be long before it travels to Germany and it can start to seep into other markets and then dilutes the message.
Yeah, absolutely. I think there's a point where there's like almost like a divide between, right, we've got to keep this stuff on brand, but also at the same time, the stuff that I imagine in some circumstances, the stuff that works in terms of on brand actually is the stuff that the UK market doesn't like. And eventually there's got to be like some kind of like give. There's got to be like, well, we'll do it. It needs to look Wera, but also have like a UK edge to it. And that's a lot. We find that a lot with the German
there's definitely
content.
a bit of that. And I talked about our amazing FTP site. However, localizing that content is a big part of what we're doing at the moment. And you will start to see over the next 3 to 12 months a real acceleration in how the Wera UK social media channels go through content. There's some big plans in place to bring in localized content, because at the end of the day, if you're sitting on a site in Blythe, you're not going to want to listen to some German person on a video.
No.
You want to go to listen to a regional accent. You want to go to listen to someone that's a real Brummie, or that's a real Yorkshire person, or a real Scot, Glasgow person. So we need to have those local voices telling the stories in a local way, but ultimately the story comes from the mothership.
Yeah, absolutely. And I get the impression, again, all of this is going to be done in-house by you guys.
On the most part, yeah. We have, I've built quite a clear vision over the next 12 months as to what we're going to do. We will engage other partners, particularly our people that are in the Wera world already. So our stockists, our customers, some end users. We'll bring them into our space, engage with them a lot more. That's one thing that we've probably not been as good at over the last number of years. Is we have an amazing perception of the brand around the industry, but we've probably been a little bit hesitant digitally to engage with our stockist network or our end users and fully identify that problem. That will start to change. It's been a bit of a slowish burner over the last 12 months for me to really get a grasp on that. And I spent some time with some stockists, around the country and hearing it from them. And, what I love, I'm a very straight talking Irishman, and I love straight talking back to me. So it's been good to hear the negatives as much as it's been to hear the positives.
Oh yeah. It's and the construction industry can be brutal, can't it? In terms of like marketing channels, is there a particular channel that you focus on more than others for varying? Like when you're talking social media, direct, email, stuff like that. So is there one thing that gets you interested?
There's definitely a combination. You know, the mix has to include multiple channels. If you take digital first, our main social media channels are Instagram, Facebook. We don't currently engage with TikTok as Wera in the UK, albeit it's funny the power of the brand. We do own the @VeraTools UK handle.
Yeah, ready to go.
Ready to go. We've never posted. However, there's already over 5,000 followers there waiting for us to go, which is weird but cool at the same time.
That is cool. Yeah. Just like a placeholder Wera account.
But it's a policy decision that we don't currently engage with TikTok. However, what we do is we build a lot of TikTok content that we then share with our customers and our stockists.
Okay.
And in other territories around the world, Wera is engaged on TikTok, just currently not in the UK. We've kind of left Twitter, X dormant. It's become a bit of a cesspit.
Yeah, it's not for us. I don't think it's a great advertising tool anyway. I think if you're an individual, it's great, but not as a brand.
Yeah, it's not where we want to be at the moment. We've started to re-engage a little bit more with email, and this is an interesting topic for me. Email for Wera, we're a B2B brand. I don't want to bombard people with a monthly newsletter trying to sell them the latest XYZ. For us, and I would make it clear in our sign-up form is we will only communicate when we have something interesting to say.
Yes.
If you want to sell, it may work for our stockists because there's a direct call to action and they can follow it through to a sale. But for us as a B2B brand, it's more about building that brand and it's engaging with people at a community level and telling them a story. So I'm not interested in bombarding people with email. We might do it 4 times a year. But then if you come back to the more traditional out of home advertising or marketing channels, we do a lot of POS. So we work a lot with our stockists through our area sales managers and to our key account managers, and we'll create in-store branding, in-store points of sale, toolbar accessories, magnetic foils, etc.
Cool.
Digitally wise, or from a video content wise, I should say, we have that great asset in the FTP site. We will engage a lot more with that now in the UK over the next 12 months. There's a video studio that's been built at Clay Cross in our HQ. That will be a place where we will obviously create our own content, but I want to invite in our customers. I want to invite in some of our end users, some of our fans of the brand to talk about their world in our space using our products.
Oh yeah, have it be like a resource for the people who are in your kind of community. That's
exactly
wicked.
That. And
so Wera, synonymous with, and that was actually how I got in contact initially with Wera. With one of the guys before your time contacted me about the fact that they were doing some really cool stuff with I think Porsche and the sort of Porsche series, and that was like my first introduction to like the behind the scenes of Wera, and you guys are synonymous with motorsport specifically and sponsorship. And sponsorship kind of happens a little bit in construction, but Wera are the guys that are all in on motorsport. Like how did that come about and what's the deal?
Yeah, I mean, luckily for me, it came about. That's why I'm sitting here, I guess, in front of you today. But so the brief background to it, our MD in the UK is an ex-racer. He raced Formula Ford 2000, etc. back in the 70s, 80s. But we work with a logistics partner in the Green Group who a great set of people led by Pete Osborne. And Pete's kids were coming up through racing. And Pete and Ian, our MD, got together initially in 2016. And Sam, Pete's son, was racing in Clio Cup in the UK. And the conversation very quickly led round to a real family feel. They're not just, there's a lot of sharks in the motorsport space that just want money. And I've seen it firsthand. There's something quite different about the way that the Osbornes operate. And so it grew from there. And then, Wera have been back in Sam and then Jamie Osborne's, but Sam's journey into British touring cars and beyond. then 2019, the Goodwood Festival of Speed, some little gobby Irishman came over to the Wera stand and had a plan to sell some sponsorship in the British Kart Championships. So I set up a meeting and I came up to Clay Cross, the current headquarters, which at the time was brand new. And I think I was one of the first visitors in. And it was one of those meetings, and, you know, I used to do a lot of sales meetings, but coming back to the culture, I put an hour in and I said, fine, I'll go back down the road. 3.5 hours later, I was getting a phone call from my wife saying, where the hell are you? I was sitting in, myself and Ian and Nick just hit it off, and we were talking about everything, and I was walking around the main room just playing with the tools. I was like a kid in a sweet shop. So that led to the 2020 title sponsorship of what was then and still is the Wera Tools British Kart Championships. In the background, that emphasis on young drivers what led to when Pete bought what was Motorbase, the previous Ford British Touring Car team, and turned now Alliance Racing, the creation of a young driver academy. So it's multifaceted, and forgive me for rambling, but effectively it's all about promoting young talent. Mm-hmm. And while, you know, the highest profile talent in motorsport is behind the wheel, ultimately for us, for Wera, and particularly as a tool brand, we are just as interested in the people that put them there in the first place.
Yes.
So, you know, I on the other side brought Wera into the British Formula 4 Championship, and through a family connection, we started working with Loughborough College and their motorsport department and the motor vehicle department to train up young apprentices and young mechanics. And we've now started using our partnerships in a professional space to bring those young mechanics into their world, to give them work placement, to give them real world experience that helps not just the teams, but helps the young mechanics as well. But our whole motorsport ethos is less about the 20,000 people on the bank, less about the however many hundreds of thousands watching TV. While it's interesting and it's great for brand awareness, the main focus for us is the 200-300 mechanics that are in all the garages and the awnings at a race weekend. They're the professional people that are hands-on with tools every day of the week. They're the people that will know the difference between a Wera Joker spanner versus any other competitor, and they'll see the innovation. It will make their life easier. It will make their job quicker. They will benefit from it. And it's that word of mouth. It's that real-world experience. And if you go down to any British Touring Car weekend, you'll see in the Formula 4 world, the technical centre is completely Wera branded. We've put in some amazing light boxes the whole way around. It's just where they scrutinize the cars, where they test them. But we've created a Wera world there. We have our tool rabble roller cabinets in there. All of the teams use it. The activation of the partnership includes a technician prize. So at the end of every race weekend, the championship will vote for a mechanic from one of the 8 teams that's gone above and beyond and done something over the Call of Duty. We reward that with an amazing toolkit of everything they'll need to work in a Formula 4 car. We do the same in karting. And we've now started working, you know, through the Young Driver Academy this year. You mentioned we had 2 Porsche drivers. We've had 2 kids in Fiesta Juniors. But we've moved into the world of rallying.
Cool.
I'm a paddy. Yeah. You know, I grew up on rallying. I was on a dry stone wall watching cars slithering through snowy, wet Galway roads. And it was through connections. Ironically, my very first day at Wera, I ended up at the Motorsport Industry Association event in Silverstone. And because of what I did beforehand, I knew a lot of people. And we got talking to Richard Milner, the team boss of M Sport, the Ford World Rally team. And Rich is, you know, also knows his tools, and turned around and said, I like your stuff. We need to start talking. Fast forward to January of this year in 2024. A mutual connection, Willie Patterson, who's the chief exec of Asset Alliance Group, is also a partner of some of our young racing drivers, was putting together a team of partners to support 2 young Scottish rally drivers. I said, okay, that's quite interesting. Oh, they're going to drive M Sport Fiestas in the British Championship. Okay, really interesting. I used to sell the sponsorship of the British Championship, know it like the back of my hand. Oh, by the way, Gary Pearson came second in the championship last year. Really interesting. Gary's a great guy. And the other driver is a young Max McRae. And I thought, oh, okay. Amazing. Even more interesting. Yeah. You know, for me, the McRae name, and for anyone that's a rally fan, the McRae name is just...
It's got some pedigree
behind
got,
it. Yeah. You know, not just, obviously Colin, but Jimmy and Alistair. all British champions. So we started working. We supported Max and Gary this year in the British Championship, and two amazing guys, absolutely amazing guys. You know, we've got them together at our HQ. We've got them together at Goodwood, and meeting and working with them on events. You know, they're really engaging. They get it. You know, they're going to go on to bigger and better things, and we will hopefully stay with them on their journey. But we also started working now with the Forward World Rally team. You know, we will have been supplying tools to them this year. They historically have worked with another brand. We've now come in a typical Wera way of saying we can do things easier than that. You know, our product innovation makes your life easier.
Yes.
And that's started to develop, and you know, you'll see from next year, any Fiesta Rally 2 car that's going to be sold around the world is going to come with a Wera toolkit. The 4 Ford Ranger Raptor trucks that are going to compete in the Dakar in January all have Wera tools on board. So when they're stuck in a desert and it's 40-degree heat and they're trying to change a component, they'll be using Wera products. It's that demonstrating our product in application in the harshest environments. And it's not just about me being a rally fan, it helps. But for me, you know, the mechanics that are behind the rally cars and rally bikes are out there in the snow, they're out there in the heat, they're out there in the desert, they're in the hammer and rain in all conditions at the highest level, under pressure, against the clock. And if we can prove what we all know, that our product will perform at that level, you know, it will trickle down to everyday automotive world.
It's a hell of an advertisement, that is, isn't it?
Yeah,
testimonial.
it is. It is. And also a bloody good project to work on.
Yeah, really cool. Yeah, I'd love to be the content team on that. That sounds amazing. Yeah, I mean, anything to do with motorsport is just sexy, isn't it? It's cool.
Yeah, it is. It is cool, and it for us as a tool company, it lends itself really nicely to cool content, as you say.
Yeah.
I mean, just earlier this year, we had our 2 Porsche drivers up at M Sport on the track, and the content will form part of something you'll see next year. But it was really cool. Basically, our drivers had a track day of sliding about in their Porsches. We were in tracking cars. We were on drone shots. We were in the garage watching their mechanics on the tools, creating this amazing content. And it was one of those moments you sit back and you say, I'm bloody paid to be here.
Yeah, this is amazing. This is amazing.
You know, this is the type of thing I'd enjoy just coming along to anyways, because I'm just an interested bloke. But and if I get excited about the content, hopefully that will then start to translate into people on the other end of it receiving that content and make them just as excited.
100%. Is there a crossover as well to the construction guys? You know, in terms of the sponsorship from, because I know, you know, I remember specifically. I was speaking to Mark Tiff, who's a mutual friend and connection.
Indeed.
You know, he was over at Goodwood.
Yep.
Liam, who's again another guy that we work with, Liam the plumber. Like those guys love motorsport as well. Do you find there's a big connection there? Because it's like, I guess mechanics and construction, 2 separate entities, 2 separate markets. But there's the sponsorship there kind of almost can combine the two.
100%, Dan. I mean, the key thing for me when I came into Wera, I was like, okay, well, let's have a look. Who are people on our database and what do we know about them? And I was kind of looked at blankly. I was like, oh, I don't know. We know anecdotally. Everyone knows anecdotally. But ultimately, because we're not B2C, it's our stockists and our customers that know who the end users are and what makes them tick. So this year, I've done a lot of surveying through channels like Hamerville, Installer, Torque magazines, whatever it may be. And it's not about data capture to email and to sell. I'm not interested in that. What I want to really is to drill down into who are the individuals, why are they buying our product, what are the factors affecting their purchasing decisions, but also what to do in their spare time.
Yes.
And motorsport always comes highly. Football, as you'd imagine, is quite high. Rugby, motorsport, motorcycles, but also things like outdoor adventuring, socialising, got on the beer or whatever it may be. Yeah. So, but what that gives us from a data perspective is the intelligence to say that, okay, we know that our typical electrician end user is more likely to be a fan of football, or our typical plumber is a bit more interested in motorsport. In one way, it's just interesting to know that, but in another way, it helps us to start to tailor our message ever so slightly. So if we're talking about our 6004 Joker series spanner, for instance, that is gone down a treat in the plumbing world, we can start to bring in these little adaptations to the messaging and to the content that speaks to the plumber, if a plumber, he or she is sitting down absorbing content, being on TikTok, Instagram, whatever it may be, they want a bit of an escapism as well. You know, so if we're just speaking to them about work the whole time, they're going to switch off. They're going to get bored. But if we start to talk to them in their passion as well as in their job, it becomes a little bit more interesting. And we're slowly starting to, again, emotionalize the brand into their space rather than just say it's great because it works on 15 and 22 mil compression.
Yes,
you know,
it's if the only two touch points is work and interest, that you've done a great job there. You know, if you can marry those two together and just go, they're my guys. I've got those tools, and you know, and I see them on the TV and in all the content based around my interest in motorsport.
Definitely that, and for our stockists and our retailers, it's also an important engagement tool as well. I mean, you know, if you take the race series and even the British Rally Championship, it travels the country. Yeah. So when we're up at Knockhill, it allows us to engage with our Scottish customers, bring them into our world for a day, have them a great day out, show them the tools in application in a certain space. They can bring in their customers. Similarly, you know, we go to Kent, we go to the back end of Wales and the British Rally Championship when they're in a forest, but ultimately there's customers of ours around there. So we can engage them at that level as well. And it's proved really successful, and it's opened some doors that have helped fund it even more. You know, it's allowed us to build relationships that have now turned into transactional relationships that allowed us to foster other relationships within that space as well. So it's been successful for us.
I love it. Matt, it's such an exciting time. It's great to have you on the podcast, Martin. Next 12 months, what's your focus? What are you doing? What are you excited about for Wera specifically? Damn it.
The next 12 months are genuinely really exciting for us, Dan, because I think I mentioned earlier, we will now really start to accelerate our digital content.
Cool.
I've invested heavily in personnel and equipment and in kit and in workshop space to start to generate that localized content that will really start to hit home and to get over that perception that Wera has been distant online and digitally. You know, I want to break down those barriers. I want to be working with our stockists in a cool way. I want to be working with our end users in a cool way. We already know they're fans of the brand. Let's bring them into our world. Let's give them the behind the scenes access that a member of the Tool Rebel community, they'll feel something tangible. You know, it's not just an interesting, cool logo. It's a real tangible benefit for them. So you'll see a lot of behind the scenes stuff. You'll see some access in for our end users. You'll see some really cool, engaging content on different topics, on different sectors, on different industries, on plumbing, heating, electricians, automotive, mountain biking, whatever it may be. We have some really cool ideas coming up our sleeves. So watch the space. 2025 is going to be a big acceleration year for us.
I'm excited to see it. I'm excited to see the socials grow and the content that's Wera, but UK. You know, that's exciting for me. And long may the success of Wera continue. I really appreciate you being on the podcast.
Absolute pleasure.
Superstar, thank you so much for traveling. And we'll call it there, shall we, Andrew? All right, peace out.
Cheers.
Thank you very much.